What's going on, Titans fans? Welcome into Titans Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and on today's show, we're going to go through the latest Mel Kiper big board and look at some potential draft prospects for the Tennessee Titans and who I think would be the best fit out of all these guys, and maybe even some potential guys who could fall into the second round that the Titans could pick up with their second round pick. Now, I will say this, we're not going to focus too much on the Titans need too much just because, well, free agency hasn't happened yet. And some of the needs they may have, that may be helped in free agency that we just don't know about yet. So who knows? Maybe they get an offensive lineman and they decide to go wide receiver in round 1, pick 7. So we're kind of go through this based on what I think the best prospects would be and how they would work on the Titans organization. That's kind of how this is going to go. Let's start with first 5 on the big board. No surprise, Caleb Williams at number 1, Marvin Harrison at number 2, Jaden Daniels is at number 3, Rome Odunze at 4, and then Drake May at number 5. Now, obviously, 3 quarterbacks on this list, 2 wide receivers. I want to sit here and talk about them for just a second, just because I know that Will Levis is the guy. I think that's the obvious notion that we're getting from Tennessee. But I can't help but think that there are some really, really good quarterback prospects in this draft, and you have a top 10 pick that could potentially get traded up, or, heck, maybe one of these guys falls. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to get Caleb. It seems like he's going to be around 1, pick 1 to the Bears, so going to kind of chalk him up as a no-show. But past that, there's a lot that could happen. So Jaden Daniels, Drake May, how exactly do they compare? Well, overall, the completion percentage in favor of Daniels, but passing yards, May is right around there. Touchdowns is way in favor of Daniels. The interceptions, obviously, May a little bit more kind of fringing than the rate, all on favor of Jaden Daniels. I think the thing that we sit here and look at, though, is Drake May is more of a proficient passer in a lot of ways, not to discredit Jaden Daniels, but I think Jaden Daniels is by far the better quarterback. But I asked this question, and I put these guys out there because I want to know, do you believe in Will Levis in 2024 to lead this football team? I certainly think I do, but it's always fun to speculate and kind of talk about, well, do they actually think that Will Levis is the guy? Do they want him to be there? Well, let's see right here. Do you believe in him? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you're thinking of Will Levis in 2024 as the leader of the Titans franchise. Now, I say this again because the Titans could trade up in theory. Obviously, I don't know if that's a real possibility. I don't know if they would actually do it, but in theory, they could definitely do that. They could go up and try and grab one of those top 3 quarterbacks. Would they do that? I don't know. I think the one that would be worth it would be Caleb Williams. I think past that, I don't know if it's worth trading up, especially when there's options of Drake May falling. And if he falls to 7, if you want him there, sure, go ahead. But ultimately, I don't really see that happening. I do see, though, their pick being somewhere in these next 5 guys. Now, it's Malik Nabers at number 6 on the big board, then Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, and Dallas Turner, the linebacker outside of Bama. This is where the Titans will pick. It's going to be in these 5 guys. Hopefully, those top 3 guys, Malik Nabers, Brock Bowers, and Joe Alt. Now, Olu Fashanu is also an option, but you're pick 7. So, in theory, off this big board, you should be good. I want to first start with Brock Bowers because I think he's probably the one that I would pick. 56 receptions in 2021, 56 receptions in 2023, over 700 yards in every single year he's played. And I don't want you to look at 2023 and say, oh, well, he had a low year. No, it wasn't that. He was injured, didn't get to play the entire season. The year before, when he did play, almost a 1,000-yard receiver as a tight end. I've said him on here a lot, and he's honestly even came out and said that he wants to play for the Titans. I think he's my pick at 7 if he's there. I think he is the best tight end prospect we have ever seen, maybe ever, at least since Kyle Pitts, probably even better than him. I think he will be the next Travis Kelce that we see in this football league, and hopefully he lands with the Tennessee Titans because we said it earlier in the show. He flat out said, who do you want to play for? He said the Titans. Listen, I don't know about you, but if someone wants to play for me, well, that's going to make me want them even more. So obviously that would be nice. Now, I will say, the way that it'll probably turn out is you're taking an offensive lineman. So those 2 options, Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt. Now, who's the better one? Well, who's to say? I think it's Alt, but ultimately both these guys are very proficient at what they do. Now, Olu allowed 0 sacks, Alt allowed 4. Alt played way more snaps. The PFF ranks heavily favor Joe Alt, but I don't want to discredit Olu, to be honest. I think both these guys are solid options. My thing is, if it's Joe Alt, that's what you're taking. But if Joe Alt's not there, then you could go the wide receiver route. Now, the wide receiver that could be available at pick 7, well, that'd be Malik Nabers. Now, this guy was a very proficient receiver in college. He had over 1,500 yards this past year, 14 touchdowns on almost 90 receptions. And if you know me, I like the averages. 17.6, that's a nice average per catch. And so I say all these names and I put these all out here because ultimately these are the three options you're going to have when it comes to round 1, pick 7. You have Alt, you have Bowers, you have Malik Nabers. I think those are the three guys that the Titans are going to shoot for, and hopefully you get one of them. So I ask you, draft this prospect here. Who are you picking? You picking Joe Alt? Then I want you to type A. You picking Brock Bowers? Well, then I want you to type B. If you're picking Malik Nabers, then I want you to type in and let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what y'all think. Not curious to see what y'all think about Prize Picks because I know it's the greatest. And y'all got to join me on these Prize Picks because I'm telling you, you can get a $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using code CLNS. Now, Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And it's cool because it's not just NFL. Obviously, that season is over. So they have NBA. They've got NHL. They got PGA. They have NASCAR. They've got baseball season-long projections. And you can combo these across different leagues. Now, I'm a baseball guy, so I'm going to throw this up there because, listen, I think those are going to hit. You got Shohei Ohtani in that nice big contract. I'm more than more on his season-long total home runs of 38.5. I got Juan Soto more than 35.5 home runs. I think he'll pop that in Yankee Stadium. And then Bobby Witt Jr. recently signed a big contract with the Royals. I think he's going to go more on his hits. I think they're a sneaky team over there in KC. And then Adolis Garcia. This guy's going to hit 40 bombs pretty much every year he's playing. So I'm expecting him to go more on his season-long total, 32.5. He hits bombs, he hits nukes, and ultimately he pimps them as well. So I'm excited to watch them. But, hey, you can go put in these exact same projections right now on prizepicks.com. And if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS in the link in the description, and you use code CLNS, you're going to get a first deposit match of up to $100. Now, Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America and the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Once again, check it out at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. All right, let's continue on this big board from Mel Kiper, going from 11 through 15 here. Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU. Troy Matanu, the offensive guard. Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, and Terrion Arnold. You see the cornerbacks kind of getting that back here. All right, you're probably sitting here wondering, Jace, what does this matter? We just talked about the three guys the Titans could get. Correct, but I want to play hypothetical here. Honestly, if I'm the Titans and Joe Alt, Malik Nabers, and Brock Bowers are taken by pick 7, I'm considering trading back because ultimately at that point, I don't think Olu is worth that. I think if you really wanted him, you could probably drop back. I know that Talisi Fuaga is also a good option later in the first round, potentially in the second. But ultimately, would they consider it? Well, if they were going to draft Nabers, Brian Thomas Jr., who was the wide receiver 2 at LSU, played really well. 68 receptions, over 1,000 yards, the average up there around 17 as well, and 17 touchdowns. This dude was a deep ball menace. And if you look at all these, you're thinking, okay, well, this is pretty good, Jace. Yeah, that's right. And he was the wide receiver 2 at LSU. Like, it was not like he was wide receiver 1. Now, obviously, LSU had so many proficient receivers that ultimately, I don't really think there's a way to say, oh, he was 1 or 2. But if you had to rank the receivers, we just did it. Malik Nabers is over Brian Thomas Jr., and so Jaden Daniels was looking to him first. Now, Brian Thomas, though, well, he's been playing really, really good as well. And honestly, if you're going to trade back, he could be there at pick 11 or 12. You can get yourself an extra second-round pick. A lot of things you could do with that. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm curious to see, though. Say the Titans did trade back. How happy or unhappy would you be? I want you to scale that on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being least happy, 10 being most happy. How would you feel about the Titans trading back in round 1? Let's continue on here with the big board from Mel Kiper. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 all here. Latu, Quentin Mitchell, Talisi Fuaga, Jared Verse, and J.C. Latham. Obviously, the one to look out and pick out here is Talisi Fuaga. Why? Offensive tackle. I think you have an early second-round pick that you could potentially trade back into the first round. Especially, let's say this. You trade back at pick 7. You then have pick number 12. You take Brian Thomas Jr. Now you have 2 second-round picks. You pair those together. You try and figure out a deal. You trade back into the first round. You get Talisi Fuaga. There you get a first-round wide receiver. You get a first-round offensive tackle right there. Bingo, bango. You're solving both issues right there in the first round without having to wait until the second round. Now, Talisi Fuaga is one that I have mentioned here on the show before, but that was when the Titans had a draft pick further on back, closer to 11 or 12, when I thought Olu or Alt would be gone. Still, pretty good guy to have. 88 PFF grade, around 90 if you consider that in test scores, add 10 points. So this dude is playing out of his mind at Oregon State, who, honestly, I give the Pac-12 credit, was a pretty good conference this past year. Had some good defensive linemen he had to face, and he held his own. Protect DJ Uyunglele really, really well, and hopefully he can do the same for Will Levis if he is picked by the Tennessee Titans. I don't think it's a bad option, and if you really want that offensive tackle or offensive guard and you don't get him in that first-round pick, there's a way you could trade up and try and get him if he falls into the later part of the first round, or potentially even into the second round, depending on teams' needs. Let's go to the last little bit of this big board here. Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle from OU. Darius Robinson from Mizzou. J.J. McCarthy, number 23 here, the QB out of Michigan, Amarius Mims. And then Keon Coleman. Going to focus on the wide receiver on this one and say Keon Coleman because, again, you have that second-round pick. You could trade up, or Keon Coleman is one of those who could fall. Played 3 seasons in college, 2 with Michigan State this past year with Florida State, and he had 50 receptions this past year for 658 yards and 11 touchdowns. He was Jordan Travis's first target when they get in the red zone. And then at MSU, still almost 800 yards on 58 receptions and 7 touchdowns. This guy is pretty good, but I will say I have my concerns about him. The reason I have them, he is a great receiver. I'm not going to knock him for that. His separation, though, is something that I question. I've seen him play at Florida State. I saw him play at Michigan State. He never was able to get that great of separations from some of these college cornerbacks. And obviously, he made up for it by his agility when the ball was coming to him, the way to win the 50-50 ball, and just overall being an athlete. But unfortunately, when you get to the NFL, that's not exactly how you can win that. You need to get separation. You need to be able to have some space to get these balls in your hands. And so, I don't know if I trust that, because if he can't get separation against college cornerbacks, what is he going to do when he faces a guy like L'Jarius Sneed or Marshawn Lattimore? Like, it's just not going to go well. So ultimately, I have my worries, but I still think he's a good receiver. And if he's there at round 2, yeah, you definitely pick him. Now, I asked you on a couple days ago your picks at pick 7, and I wanted to show these off. We got Henry Clark saying he's going to take Joe Alt or Rome Odunze. If Rome's there at 7, I think you should take him. Definitely agree with that. Tennessee Sports Zone saying Malik Nabers. Like that pick. I think that's a good one. And then we got a couple of Joe Alts on here from Michael Edwards and Sophia or Soph21A. We really appreciate you hanging out in the comments, obviously. Listen, this is an interactive channel. I want you all to interact with us, so make sure you're answering all the questions. And, hey, maybe you'll end up on a show in the near future. We really appreciate y'all watching. Obviously, that we're going to keep our coverage up with the draft coming closer and closer. The NFL Combine next week, we're going to get some more answers to a lot of these guys, and I'm really excited. Top 10 pick, lots of cap space, a quarterback that I trust. I think it's going to be really, really good for the Tennessee Titans. So we appreciate you watching as always. But for now, tighten up and peace out.